We are live.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Isaac Heschel.
Are you able to change the name for me? I'm sorry.
My name is Isaac Heschel, and I'm honored to serve as the chairperson for the Community Action Board. As this is the first meeting of this year, I want to begin by wishing everyone a very happy, healthy, prosperous, successful new year. I thank everyone. Happy New Year. I thank everybody for joining us, for taking time out of their busy schedules to participate and further our agenda. I'll begin by asking our new secretary, Ms. Tenenbaum, to be so kind and do the roll call.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson. Good evening, everyone. And as was just mentioned, I will be calling the roll for the first time. So I ask for your patience. And also I ask if I mispronounce your name to let me know. Thank you. From the office of Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso, I know we have a representative. Could you please tell us your name?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gregory Lewis. I'm the General Counsel to the Borough President, and I'm very honored to be here tonight.
Welcome. Okay, from the office of New York State Assembly Member Jeffrey Aubrey, Louise Emanuel.
Here.
Good evening, Louise.
Good evening.
Moises Pereira. Ismael Sanchez. From the office of Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine, Christopher Carroll. Oh, okay. Victoria Camarota Curto. Yesenia Cardona.
Here.
Good evening, Yesenia.
Victoria just came in. She's in the process of coming in.
Great, okay. Claudia Koger.
No. Hello.
Cynthia Cox.
Hello.
From the office of the mayor, Eric Adams. Is there a representative? Okay. Anderson Deng. From the office of the Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson, Monica Major.
Present.
So
Good evening, Monica.
Evening.
Is Angel Goud Jr.
No.
as well?
No, he's the alternate.
Got it. Apologies.
No, it's okay.
The CAB Secretary, Program Committee Chair, Gregory Hambrick.
Present. Thank you, Susie.
Good evening, Greg. Trying to follow in your footsteps. From the office of City Council Member Matthew Eugene, is there a representative?
No.
Okay. Francisco Feliz. Our Community Action Board Chairperson Isaac Heschel. Chair Heschel. Good evening.
Present. You're doing well.
Thank you. From the office of the City Council Speaker, Adrian Adams. Is there a representative?
Yes, hello, Susie, Catherine Mooney.
Oh, Kate, good evening.
Yes, good evening, thank you.
CAB's parliamentarian, Rhonda Joseph.
I'm here.
Hey,
Good evening, Rhonda.
Good evening.
Wayne King.
Present.
Good evening, Wayne.
Good evening.
Paul Mai.
Good evening.
Good evening. Gideon Dunkley. Okay, Joseph Pierre. From the office of Staten Island Borough President Vito Fossella, is there a representative? Okay. Vasumati Patel.
Present.
Good evening, Mrs. Patel.
Good evening.
Okay. Claudia Perez.
Present.
Good evening, Claudia. From the office of Council Member Bill Perkins,
no,
Taj Berrien. Okay. Victor Reyes. From the office of Queensborough President Donovan Richards, myself, and our alternate representative, Ludi Honor. Good evening, Ludi.
Good
Of
evening, Susie. Thank you for having me.
course, well,
welcome.
thanks to the CAB. From the office of City Council Member Deborah Rose, Isa
No longer.
Cortez Rogers. Oh, that's wrong. Yes,
That's wrong, yes. No, yeah, you could skip that.
Sorry, okay. Jackie Rowe Adams.
She's here.
Here.
Good
Hi,
evening,
thank you.
Jackie. Robert Oliva. There are two alternates, Tirani Street and Leah Schmerl.
No.
St. Francis College. From the Office of New York City Comptroller Brad Lander, Antirson Ortiz.
Here.
Hi, present.
Good evening, welcome. Derek Tate. Christopher Toomer. CAB Third Vice Chairperson Ariel Savransky.
Present.
Good evening, Ariel. Nora Moran.
Present.
Good evening, Nora. Janet Dlugos. Or Brian.
Present. Good evening.
Good
Hi,
evening.
John.
CAB First Vice Chairperson Linda Walters.
Present.
Good evening, Linda. Justin Westbrook Lowery. And from the Office of New York City Public Advocate, Jumani Williams. Elizabeth Kennedy.
Present. Good evening.
Good evening, Elizabeth. And Patian Williams.
Not yet.
And that is the roll.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Susie.
We have quorum.
We have quorum.
Yay.
See, it's all due to Susie.
Thank you, Susie.
Actually, it's the hard work of the staff of DYCD and the great volunteerism of the members of the board that enable us to have quorum. So thank you to all. We begin now with the board correspondence. Our second vice chairperson, Greg Hambrick, changed jobs. And as the bylaws of the CAB, we have to reconfirm him as a member, and I will read the official letter from his new company. The letterhead is Doc Go, the name of the company, and it's addressed to Commissioner Chung. This letter is expressed that Doc Go is committed to the continued support of the Community Action Board, partnership and advisory oversight of the Department of Youth and Community Development to alleviate the effects of poverty throughout New York City while providing economic opportunities for youth and young adults. Gregory Hambrick, who's our National Director of Talent Acquisition, will continue to be an active representative on the organization's behalf as a longstanding member of the board. We look forward to the opportunities this partnership will provide. Regards, Rosemary Milano, National Vice President of Human Resources. Greg, if you would like to tell us a little bit about the company.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and pardon the background noise as I am in transit. As everyone knows, continue to be committed to serving on the board. I've joined DOC in the fall of last year as National Director of Talent Acquisition. DOC focuses on mobile healthcare throughout 28 states, currently based out of New York. So we provide healthcare in a variety of ways on a mobile platform that operates out of the traditional four walls of the hospital setting. So glad to be a part of the organization. Obviously, we've done a lot of partnerships as of late throughout the city to provide COVID testing and vaccination for a variety of entities, including public school system and employers the like. So glad to be a part of the company and certainly glad to represent the company in my continued capacity as a member of the CAB.
Thank you, Greg. We appreciate it, and we appreciate the outstanding work and service you provided to this board for such a great period of time. I will now officially entertain a motion to recognize Greg as a continued member representative of the board.
Motion accepted.
Second by Victoria.
Seconded by Victoria. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. Greg, as always, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it.
Moving on, we will now recognize Christopher Carroll as the representative for the Manhattan Borough President's Office, Borough President Mark Levine. I will read the letter from the Office of the President of the Borough President of Manhattan, City, New York, February 9, 2022. Mr. Isaac Heschel, Chairperson, CAB, DYCD, NAB, CAB Liaison Unit. Dear Mr. Heschel, pursuant to the Article 3, Section 1B of the Community Action Board bylaws for the City of New York, I am designating Christopher Carroll, advisor to the Borough President and Director of Policy on my staff, as my representative at the Community Action Board meetings. Mr. Carroll can be reached by email or by telephone, and they provided the contact information. Sincerely, Mark Levine, Manhattan Borough President. Mr. Carroll, before we officially vote, if you would like to say a few words.
I don't think he's in attendance yet.
He's not in attendance?
I don't think he's here.
Okay.
So
So we'll entertain a motion to accept Mr. Carroll as representative to our board.
Motion to accept Jackie Rowe Adams.
Jacqueline,
Second by
thank you.
Vasumati Patel.
Appreciate the second. All in
Vasumati
favor,
Patel.
Ms. Patel, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. Moving on. Recognition of Monica Major as the representative for the Bronx Borough President, Vanessa Gibson. This is dated February 16th, 2022. Mr. Isaac Heschel, Chairperson, CAB, DYCD, NAB, CAB Liaison Unit. Dear Mr. Heschel, pursuant to Article 3, Section 1B of the Community Action Board bylaws for the City of New York, I am designating Monica Major, Director of Education and Youth Services, on my staff as my representative for the Community Action Board meetings. Ms. Major may be reached by email or by telephone. I'm also designating our education liaison, Angel Good Jr., as an alternate representative should Ms. Major not be able to attend. Mr. Good can be reached by email or by telephone, and the numbers and email were added. Sincerely, Vanessa L. Gibson, Bronx Borough President. Ms. Major, if you would be so kind, if you would like to address the board before we vote.
Well, good evening, everyone. Once again, I appreciate the opportunity to serve the Bronx and to serve the New York City as a whole. And thank you for having me this evening.
Thank you very much. We'll now entertain a motion to accept Monica Major as a representative and a member of our board.
Motion to
Greg
accept.
Hambrick, second.
I didn't hear the first, I'm sorry.
Linda Walters.
Linda Walters.
Motion
Thank
to
you, Linda.
accept.
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
Seconded by Greg. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved.
Aye.
Moving on. From the office of the Brooklyn Borough President, we will recognize Gregory E. Lewis as his representative. We'll read the letter. Dated February 17, 2022. Mr. Isaac Heschel, Chairperson, Ms. Candice Julian, Strategic Outreach Director, Ms. CAB, DYCD, NAB, CAB Liaison Unit. Dear Mr. Heschel and Ms. Julian, pursuant to Article 3, Section 1B of the Community Action Board bylaws for the City of New York, I am designating Gregory E. Lewis, General Counsel, on my staff as my representative at the Community Action Board meeting scheduled for this evening, February 17, 2022. Mr. Lewis may be reached by email or by telephone. Thank you for your courtesy in this matter. Sincerely, Antonio Reynoso, Brooklyn Borough President.
I think that's what I'm voting for.
Mr. Lewis, if you'd like to say a few words.
Simply that I'm honored to serve Brooklyn and to be part of this board's proceedings. This board with a very venerable history going back to our efforts to eradicate poverty by stimulating job growth, going back to the 1960s. So it's an honor to be among all of you.
Thank you very much. We'll now entertain a motion to accept Mr. Lewis as a member of the board representing Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso. Motion,
Motion to accept?
Rhonda Joseph, second.
thank you, Linda. Thank you for the second as well. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. It is a pleasure to add these outstanding individuals to be a member of our family of the CAB board. As you will see, we are lucky and privileged to have such an outstanding group of people who give of themselves with such dedication to do what they can to help the poor and the needy of this great city. So welcome all aboard and thank you for joining us. It gives me now great honor and pleasure to ask the Honorable Commissioner Bill Chung to say a few words. Before the commissioner gives us his remarks, before the beginning of the meeting, I mentioned it and I would like to go on record to thank the commissioner for the incredible job he did leading this outstanding agency. It's reached incredible heights. It will continue based on his leadership and the exceptional crew, the team he put together to assist them and to assist the people of the city. Commissioner, we wish you well. It's a shame that for us, that you're retiring. God bless you. We wish you the very, very best in your future endeavors and whatever you decide to do with your precious time. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the kind words.
Oh, this is Anita. Yes.
Nita, you want to mute? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the kind words. It's bittersweet moment for me. I'll be retiring next week. I've been with DYCD for 16 years, 8 years under the Bloomberg administration, and I came back as commissioner under Mayor de Blasio. And I've now served 5 mayors, starting from Dinkins. I worked for President Bill Clinton. I worked for 2 Cuomos in my life. And so I've, seen a lot, seen the ups and downs, but, through it all, I think there's a richness to public service. And I want to thank members of the CAB, those that are new and those that have been in the trenches for many years, for the work you do, because there's nothing quite rewarding as public service. As I said to the chair, everything I take on, I try to leave it a better place. And I think I've done that with DYCD. Last year, our budget hit $1 billion. And as you probably have read in the newspapers, Mayor Adams announced the preliminary budget for the city. And DYCD is among a handful of agencies where the budget actually increased. As you probably saw the announcement, the mayor is committed to increasing the number of summer jobs from 75,000 last year to 100,000 this year. It's one of the oldest second oldest program. Actually, it is the oldest program. It's 60 years old. The CSBG programs, I think, are a little younger than that. And so I'm proud of what our staff has accomplished over the last 8 years. I think people recognize that DYCD is on the map. We're an agency of hope, and a time when the city continues to face many challenges, it's important that the work of DYCD continues. So I want to thank everyone, and I will be admiring the work of the staff at DYCD and many of the volunteers from afar. I plan to volunteer My career started 40 years ago as an activist in the Asian community. So I have some volunteer opportunities I've signed up for. And so you'll be hearing, I'll be taking a different path, but it's the same journey. So thank you for everything you've done. And I'm sure our paths will cross at some point in the future.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. God bless you. We wish you the very best. If this meeting was in person, we'd all get up and give you a standing ovation, which you would
Thank
truly deserve. Moving on. Is Amy Kolar with us this evening?
Hi, yes, I am.
Good evening. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
It's an honor and a pleasure to have you join us, to take time out of your busy schedule to participate. Amy is the Associate Director, Contract Processing Division of Community Services for New York State Department of State. And we appreciate her joining this meeting, and we'll be delighted for you to share some thoughts and words with us.
Well, I'm honored to be joining you. I'm happy to see everyone, and I hope everyone's well. I truly enjoy working with DYCD, and I just want to congratulate the commissioner on his retirement. I'm sure you'll be missed. I just want to let you guys know how much we value your partnership in working with you, and to thank all of you board members for your dedication in making DYCD the great agency they are.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The board in the packet should have seen the minutes for our meeting, which had taken place on November 18th, 2021. And we will now formally vote to accept those minutes. I would entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
Motion to accept by Ariel.
Ariel, thank you. A second by
Linda,
Linda. Thank you for the second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. Thank you. It gives me great pleasure now to ask our super talented and dedicated Deputy Commissioner, Mike Bobbitt, to give the commissioner's report.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of the Community Action Board. You've heard directly from the commissioner, and so I'm able to greatly truncate my report since he covered, many of the matters that I would have in his absence. So I'll keep it quite short. As the CAB is aware, the NDA RFP is underway. We're at the proposal committee review stage. So people who read for proposals, there'll be committee meetings to review their scores in the interest of finalizing awards. So that's very much underway right now. We're still anticipating contract start date of July 1st. I want to thank the CAB members for their participation in this process, and we'll have more reporting at the next CAB meeting about that. We're actively looking to ensure a full CAB. And so I want to thank the members that were just identified and welcome you to this CAB. And I'm also pleased to recognize some stability in some of the folks. Monica Major is one that springs to mind, who've been with the CAB for a while. Thank you for being really installed. And we look forward to working with all of you to promote CSBG. Anita and her team are also hard at work. Even as we wrap up from the NDA RFP, we are looking to conduct the 2022 Community Needs Assessment. And so they're actively recruiting new NEB members. So I will thank the CAB for your involvement on that front and ask you to continue to stay engaged. If you know of other community members in good standing, upstanding community members who want to throw their shoulder into the work that you know very well for our upcoming community needs assessment. We can say more about that at the next CAB meeting as well. The commission already spoke to the growth of the agency, so I wouldn't need to cover that right now, and to the growth specifically in SYP. Thank him for those remarks. Lastly, the many CAB members are familiar, we've presented before about the Spring into Health campaign. So I just want to let you know that the coronavirus does not stop the need for DYCD and its providers to talk about health and well-being. In fact, it's ample reason to lean into the importance of amplifying health and well-being. Where we last left off and last reported, that campaign had grown from an initial 6 program sites doing health events. I think our last report, we said 45. So for the 2022 campaign, we've had over 100 programs identify that they want to have either an in-person or a virtual event. Look forward to giving you more information about that as well at the next CAB meeting, but consider that sort of a taste of what is to come. I will turn it back over to you, Chair, and thank you again for this time, for this window, and close by thanking Commissioner Chong. He's been a great leader. I appreciate the opportunities he's given me to contribute to and grow at the agency. I think everyone on the staff feels the same way. I'm very gladdened to hear that he won't be a stranger and he'll find other ways to continue to engage with us. But again, very thankful and glad that he was able to join this meeting. The CAB had an opportunity to recognize him directly for all his work. Thank you, Chair.
No, not at the moment. Who should I say is calling?
Thank you very much, Deputy Commissioner Bobbitt. The Executive Committee met on February 10th.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think you skipped our financial report and our.
Oh, my apologies. Yes, my apologies. It gives me great pleasure to ask Artis Samugan, the Senior Budget Director, to give the financial program quarterly report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to share my screen. And while I do, I want to congratulate Susie on her new role, and also to welcome all the new board members that were introduced today. My name is Artis Samugan. I'm the Senior Budget Director at DYCD, and this is mostly for the new members. I'm going to be presenting a financial report on the CSBG resources in DYCD's budget for city fiscal year 22. Total funds available in city fiscal year 22 is $39.3 million. Generally, CSBG funds are allocated among 3 areas: program contracts, auto contractual services, and DYCD personnel services. As you can see, the bulk of the $39 million, $32.1 million is spent on program contracts. These are direct service programs that CBOs perform on DYCD's behalf. The bulk of the $32 million is in the NDA development group. That's $15.9 million. And that's a little under 50% of the program contracts. We have followed that, the Immigration Refugee Program, which is one of our smallest programs, at $590,000, and that represents 2% of the program contracts. HRA Legal Services has a budget of $2.1 million. The NICALI CSBG portion of it is $501,000. The Fatherhood Initiative, which is the 3rd largest at $2.8 million, is 9% of the program budget. Adolescent literacy comes in at $827,000, and SYEP is at $9.4 million this year. We still have some issues with the NDA contracts being fully registered, and that's the reason why our expenditures is only at $977,000. That's 6% of the NDA budget. And you will note that we have actually paid $3.1 million. And for the new members of the board, this is because DYCD gives an advance to our providers at the start of the year. And come January, we start to recoup those advances. So for the months of July through December, we are reimbursing the expenses that they submit without recouping the advances. But starting in January through June is when we recoup those advances. And by the end of the fiscal year, expenses equals payments. So overall, we have expenses of $12.9 million, and the bulk of that is from the SYEP program at 9.4. Also, for our new members, the SYEP program, happens in the first 2 months of the city fiscal year. So at this time of the year, expenses are usually 100%, unlike the other programs, which are 12 months long. The fatherhood and immigration refugee we see high spending rates there of 47% and 45%. And that's followed by the HRA legal services contracts, adolescent literacy, and NICALI. At the end of the year, we expect that these programs will be spending at a 98%. So even though year to date our expenses are 40%, we are confident that expenses will pick up once all the contracts are registered, and by the end of the year or soon thereafter, expenses will match our historic spending rate of 98%. Other contractual services is comprised of technical assistance, that's the largest bucket at $1.6 million, fiscal field reviews, which is a contract we have that provides reviews of our CBOs as regulated by the CSBG grant. We have a fiscal agent services contract, which helps small CBOs with their back office work. We have money that's put in the marketing section of our grant, publications, printing and subscription, employee development and recruitment, travel,
Automated voice messaging system.
technology,
917.
board development, stipends, and central insurance program. Altogether, that's $2.1 million. And these buckets of funds here support the programs in the program contracts. Spending at this point is $784,000, which is 36% of the award. And unlike the program contracts, what we spend is also what we've paid. So payment and expenses are exactly the same, as you can see. Personal services through December is at 52% spending rate. That's $2.6 million. So overall, of the $39.3 million of CSBG funds we have in city fiscal year 22, we have expenditures of $16.3 million, which represents 41%. We have made payments of $19.5 million, which represents 50%. And now I'm going to take you to a comparison of where we were at the last meeting, which was November 18. At that point in time, we had expenses of $6.9 million. And if you compare to our current expenses of 12.8, that's an increase of 87.5%. For payments in the program category, we have an increase from the last meeting of 99.7%. Other contractual services, we were at $86,000 and now we're at $784,000. So that's quite a leap. In fact, it's over 800% increase. And for our personal services, we have an 88.4% increase from our last meeting. That wraps up my presentation. I am happy to answer questions you have.
Thank you, Artis, as always, for the outstanding presentation. Does anyone have any questions for Artis?
Yes, I have a question. Artis, I was wondering, I don't know if you can answer this, but someone can answer. Some of the nonprofit organizations are still awaiting funding. Is there a reason for that? I mean, we're waiting to pay some of the employees, from what I understand, like an after-school program that's run in my school.
Yes, I'm sorry, my computer froze for a minute. The reason for that is the backlog in the contract registration. I'm not sure if folks know, but Mox introduced a new system fairly recently, and we are working in that program now. I'm not sure that that's exactly the reason why. I don't want to go on record as saying that that's the reason why we have a slowdown in the registration, but if contracts are not registered, then they can't submit their invoices for us to reimburse them. So once that contract is registered, they can submit their expenses from the start of the city fiscal year to date, and they will be reimbursed for that.
And is there someone who can help them to be registered? Is it a technical, a kind of computer, thing, or?
It could be a variety of reasons why a contract isn't registered, from a systems issue, or documents were returned and need to be redone. I would have that provider reach out to their program manager in DYCD who oversees their program, and they should be able to give them the answer on what's slowing down their registration. They will talk to our procurement folks here in DYCD, and they will be able to give them information on why the registration is so slow, and what stage it's at, and anything that needs to be done. If they need to do anything, they will let them know that.
And there isn't a way to do like a cash advance until this gets fixed? I think it's from the summer, so I don't know why they said.
Yes, providers can reach out to through your program manager. We do have that option, and it goes through our accounts payable, and our procurement group would help with making that happen. They're the ones who would evaluate the situation, and they're the ones who would make it happen.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Anderson Ortiz from the Comptroller's Office. I just want to make sure the SYEP amount that we're looking at right now, is that the current budget for this year overall, or just?
It's the actual budget and expenses for summer 21, city fiscal year 22. So July and August of 2021.
Got it. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions? Once again, artists, thank you. We'll now entertain a motion to vote to accept the financial program quarterly report.
Thank you very much. Good night, all.
Thank you. Motion to accept.
Accept. Victoria Curto.
Victoria, thank you. Seconded by?
All my.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays?
Aye.
Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. We accept the report.
I don't think, Mr. Chairman, I don't think we got a vote for Mike's report, the commissioner's report.
Okay, so we'll officially vote on that. I'll entertain a motion to accept Deputy Commissioner Mike Bobbitt's commissioner's report. Though, a motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Who was that?
Derek Tate.
Derek. Okay, hi, Derek.
Thank you, Derek. Seconded by?
Linda.
Linda, thank you for the second.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. Thank you. On February 10th, the executive committee met to review the committee reports. I begin by asking our first vice chair, Linda Walters to give the governance report.
Thank you. The CAB vacancies. Staff reported on the following. Public sector. Presently vacant are 12 out of the 15 seats. DYCD Intergovernmental Affairs is busy working on getting the newly elected borough president offices, mayor office, and controller office to send representatives to the CAB. Public sector members must write a letter of introduction for their representatives to be formally acknowledged by the CAB, and I believe that's what they did, correct?
Yep, that's exactly what they did.
So I should skip this part.
You could say that most of the seats are filled. We're still
Okay.
working on a few more.
Okay, most of the seats are filled. Sorry, y'all, and they're still working on it. The low income sector, Region 1, NDA Bronx 1 and 2, Region 3, NDA Bronx 5 and 6, Region 10, NDA Brooklyn 1, 2, and 4. NAB Chairperson Representative Bronx and Queens, and NAB Chairperson Representative Manhattan and Staten Island. Staff is presently looking for candidates and will soon start the election process. Hopefully, most of the vacancies will be filled by the next CAB in full meeting. Low-income sector members' term of office. Reminders will be sent out in January. So you would have received that already. New business. The new business was conducted by Anita, which was excellent. The new member orientation included the history of the Community Block Grant Program for New York City, the CAB, and CAB member responsibilities, the NAB and their role in community action. Members were given the CAB orientation manual that details all the previous points and more. The next orientation will take place in the fall, and all members are invited to attend. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I saw something come across my screen. Okay, and that concludes, the governor's meeting.
Thank you very much, Linda. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We'll now entertain a motion to accept the governance committee report. Motion to accept.
Motion to accept, Claudia Perez.
Claudia Perez, thank you. Seconded by
Batumati Patel.
Ms. Patel, thank you for the second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Anyone abstaining?
From the summer, Nancy, good.
So moved. Thank you. I will now ask Greg Hambrick, our second vice chair, to present the program committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. In the interest of not having any distractions, unfortunately, due to me traveling, I'd like to ask Anita if she doesn't mind to present the report on my behalf.
Sure, Greg, I'll do that. Okay, so the program committee met on Wednesday, January 5th. And they had two presentations. One was from the New York City Civic Engagement Commission. They have a neighborhood coalition initiative for participatory budgeting in New York City neighborhoods that were hit hard by COVID-19. So they were asking for the CAB and the NAB help in getting these neighborhoods to vote on the projects that were offered in those neighborhoods. So they worked together with the task force for racial inclusion and equity neighborhood budgeting process. They're investing 1.3 million at the hardest hit COVID-19 neighborhoods. The top priorities are mental health, gun violence prevention, hunger, and youth programming. So why participatory budgeting? It gives people a direct say in the city budget. It breaks the cycle in a lack of input, lack of being heard, mistrust, alienation from the democratic processes. So who is part? It revives and deepens democracy in the neighborhoods that are involved. It looks at the COVID-19 pandemic equity gaps and the hopelessness of leaders.
Much, Emma, that community board meeting, not community board.
Mute your mic, please, while we're presenting here. And it lets people vote on the specific proposals or projects that they want to see funded in their neighborhood. It breaks the cycle. People feel like they haven't been heard and helps build confidence and trust in public institutions. So they had a voting phase that went from January 5th through January 24th, and I think it was extended a little bit more. They had online ballots, they had phone ballots, they had paper ballots, and there was assistance in every step of the way. And the commission asked the CAB and the NAB members to spread the word to get more community and residents involved. The second presentation was the NDA educational support for high school students, and the Coalition for Hispanic Family Services presented. Laura Paris, the supervisor, and Tanya Torres, the program director. And it was introduced by Patrice Lewis, Deputy Director, DYCD Community Action Programs. This organization was founded in 1990, initially to support families on public assistance and in the foster care system. They created a neighborhood-based foster care program. The NDA program takes place within the organization's youth programs. In 1993, an art and literacy program was started in Bushwick and expanded to many other neighborhoods in Brooklyn and Queens. Most of the after-school programs serve elementary, and middle school students. Many of the graduates of those elementary and middle school programs wanted to come back and be involved in those programs again, as they were when they were children. So they used the high school program to create an apprenticeship program where they could assist the younger children and still be part of the program and take more leadership roles. The provider collaborated with DYCD to incentivize academic achievement through paid internship, as the funding through DYCD also includes stipend for youth. Academic support meetings are 101 and include counseling sessions. Participants get to explore their creativity through art. High school students get to mentor younger children. And there's a job skills and internship part of the program. And it includes career talks with professionals from diverse backgrounds and occupations. So those were the two presentations. And I have to say that they were really great. So I invite all CAB members, new and veteran, if you want to hear about the programs that we're funding, please come to the program committee meeting. You'll always be invited to attend. And that's the end of the report, Mr. Chair.
Anita, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone have any questions? I will now entertain a motion to accept the program committee report.
So moved, Joseph Pierre.
One was cutting out the other one.
Jackie.
Joseph Pierre, so moved.
Joseph Pierre, okay.
Joseph Pierre, thank you. Seconded by Jackie Rowe Adams. Thank you for the second. All of those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. Thank you. I will now ask Ariel Savransky, who does an outstanding job as the second vice chair for the Strategic Partnership Committee report. Ariel?
Great. Hi, everyone. So my report is going to be pretty short because we talked about a number of the things already. Most of our discussion was really focused on the NEB membership and recruitment and the CAB membership and recruitment. We did brainstorm a number of suggestions that we could use in order to recruit, especially as groups are starting to meet in person potentially again. So we came up with ideas of going to tenant association meetings, college civics clubs, DYCD program participants, community gardens, and any other groups that are kind of meeting within the community in order to recruit members. You already heard about the great work that Anita and her team are doing in order to get members from the public offices. We know there was a lot of turnover there, so it sounds like things are really starting to take off now, especially as elected officials are getting more comfortable in their positions. We talked about the NDA 2021 update, and Mike already kind of gave us a summary of where we're at there, so I won't go into detail there. And those are really the two major topics of discussion. So I will pass it back to our chair.
Thank you very much, Ariel. Any questions for Ariel? I will now entertain a motion to accept the Strategic Partnership Committee report. Motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Thank you, Linda. Seconded by?
So moved.
Seconded by?
Joseph Patel.
Ms. Patel, thank you for the second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. It gives me pleasure to ask Mike Bobbitt, our Deputy Commissioner, to give us the DYCD equity statement and to speak about it. Mike?
Thank you, Chair. I will again strive to be brief, and I want to turn the presentation shortly over to our colleague, Derek Martinez from DYC's Program Integration Evaluation Unit. I will remind the CAB members, new members, we're not at the last meeting, but for those who were, we did a brief walkthrough of DYC's prior equity statement. Issued in 2018, it represents an opportunity for the agency to begin to speak to the topic of being anti-racist. As circumstances have evolved, that statement was written before the pandemic, before the George Floyd murder, before a lot of robust discussions throughout the city and through the country concerning anti-racist practices. And we're thankful that among the gifts we appreciate is Commissioner Chong lending his shoulder and lending our support to not only redefining the agency's mission, which we've covered in prior years, but declaring ourselves to be an anti-racist agency and to put in the work to do that. So it was incumbent upon us to revise our equity statement. We touched on it, as I said, at the last meeting, but time did not allow us to do what we wanted to do, which give an opportunity for the CAB to give feedback. And so I'm not going to go through the slides. I'm going to ask Derek to walk us through the slides so you can again see the equity statement. And he has some targeted questions that we wanted to share with you, which are the same questions that we have been asking ourselves, management, line staff. We did a similar presentation of this type for all of the community development division recently. And looking forward on the horizon, we'll be engaging our nonprofit portfolios with these same questions as well. So I'm going to turn the presentation over at this time to Derek.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I just if someone can give me a thumbs up that you can hear me clearly. Someone make sure. All right. Thank you so much, Chairperson. Good evening once again. Like Mike said, my name is Derek Martinez. I've been working on a number of different projects here at DYCD. One of them very near and dear to my heart is the equity statement revision, which we started a number of months ago. So I'm going to just jump right in. I'm going to try and share my screen here. Okay, so you should all be able to see that. So like Mike said, we had a number of incidents take place over the last couple of years with police brutality, the disparate impact of COVID on Black and Brown communities. So we wanted to have a statement that reflected the new DYCD and our way of thinking. So we took on the strategy to revise our statement so that it reflected our current anti-racist position. As Mike mentioned, we committed to the goal of becoming an anti-racist city agency, and developing the equity statement and operationalizing, which I'll explain a little bit later on, really became at the forefront of what we took on for this year. So very quickly, I'll just go through what the flow was like. Essentially, there were a number of us here at the agency that were interested in doing the revision. We enlisted the support of Community Resource Exchange, who did a lot of the work on the back end in terms of doing research of what other city agencies were putting in their equity statements, not just here in New York City, but also across the United States. They also did surveys of our internal staff along with interviews, and they also surveyed our provider staff, members of our provider community to gauge what they felt would be steps for DYCD to undertake as it relates to equity and what our equity statement should say. So Community Resource Exchange, along with DYCD staff, we created this final draft that then our executive team, along with Commissioner, approved back in November of 2021. So that was our process. So I'm going to share the equity statement in a moment, but as you're hearing it, I would like for you all to think about what is DYCD currently doing that we should continue to do? What should we start to do that would support this newly revised equity statement? And what should DYCD just stop doing because it does not support this, this equity statement? So I'll start reading now. So the New York City Department of Youth and Community Development strives to alleviate the effects of poverty and provide opportunities for New Yorkers to reach their full potential. We acknowledge that institutional racism and discrimination have been and remain significant drivers of poverty and inequities in New York City neighborhoods. We recognize the role that the policies and practices of systems and institutions, including New York City government agencies such as DYCD, may play in perpetuating structural inequities. In response, we commit to evaluate internal and external DYCD policies and practices that have allowed structural inequities to persist, which can inform our goal of equitable implementation of operational, administrative, and programmatic functions and distribution of financial resources. We are committed to the goal of becoming an anti-racist city agency, recognizing that this will be a journey and commitment that requires sustained efforts of analysis and accountability. As a learning organization, we will hold ourselves accountable and adhere to our guiding principles. When we make mistakes along the way, we will acknowledge them, adapt, and continue to move forward. Our vision is a New York City in which everyone flourishes, and outcomes are not determined by race, gender identity, sexual orientation, income, neighborhood, immigration status, or disability. So before I go on to the questions, I want to get a sense of what you all sort of think about the statement as it stands now. You can put that, your comments in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself, like, what do you think about the statement? Is it clear? Is it complete? Does it make sense? It is a safe space, I promise. No judgments. All right, so I'm gonna open it up for comments in a moment. So I'm also at the end of this presentation, I'll leave you all with my email address. If you have questions or comments that maybe something came up for you at the end of this presentation that you really wanted to share, feel free to shoot me an email. I'm happy to hear your comments and your questions and your suggestions on ways that we can continue to operationalize the statement. So here are those questions again. What is it that we're doing that we should continue? What should we start to do? And what should we stop to do? In speaking with the NAB team, we thought that it'd be best if you all either use the chat feature here on Zoom, or like I said, I'm going to give you all my email address if you have any thoughts or suggestions that you would like to share. But does anyone have anything that's that they're thinking of that fits into a response to any of these questions that you'd like to share now?
Susie Tannenbaum put something in the chat.
Yeah, Anita, if you could share. Yeah.
Sure. She says it's very proactive. Thank you for sharing it. Could you tell us how you will monitor and measure the progress?
Ooh, that is a great question.
Sure.
I was going to share this at the end of the presentation, but we do have a number of different projects that this all fell under as of last year. Part of it is reinvesting or providing additional resources to our technical assistance providers that are of color or headed by women. We also had a deeper or more enriched investment in professional development for DYCD staff as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion related topics and trainings. We also took a look at how programs are funded across New York City and started to examine ways that we could do it in an equitable manner. One of the metrics that we are going to be working on in the next coming weeks, we partnered with Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Works. They're a nonprofit that's going to actually do an organizational assessment of our agency to measure our equity fitness. And that'll include looking at the way that we pay folks across the agency. They're going to interview folks in leadership, as well as Commissioner Chung. Hopefully before he leaves, we'll be able to get some statements from him. But the work that DEI Works will do on our behalf will eventually turn into some sort of metric so that we can set some goals and see where we're at in terms of our equity overall. It's a great question. Anything else come up for anyone?
Derek, I would just add, perhaps, in the mission statement, it's written DYCD would like to become an anti-racist organization. And I was a member of NAB many years ago, and now part of the CAB, and DYCD has never, ever been an agency where racism has come to mind. I would personally think it should be changed to continue to be an anti-racist agency, opposed to becoming one. If you look at the board, it's diverse. If you look at what's being accomplished through DYCD throughout the years, it speaks of inclusion and doing the right thing for everybody. So this agency has to continue to be anti-racist, not become anti-racist.
That's really excellent feedback. Thank you for that. And absolutely right. It's something that we need to continue to do. We intentionally chose that language because we wanted our staff to think about it in that sort of frame or lens, that we're actively working towards being this anti-racist city agency where it just never stops, right? Because if we think that we've reached that milestone, then we're not going to continue to work towards it. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the feedback. And I'll bring it back to the group. Thank you for that. Anything else?
Hi, Derek. This is Mitch. I have a board member put on the comment, perhaps it is important to acknowledge that our equity statement is a living document, just like our constitution. And then the final statement, I like the statement that say we may make mistake, but we can correct it.
So thank you, Mitch.
That is by Victoria.
I appreciate that. Oh, thank you, Victoria. Thank you for that comment. Thanks. Great. So for some reason, my email's not coming up on this screen, which is strange, but I'm going to stop sharing. But let's see if I can get it for folks. Just so that you have it, essentially as dmartinez@dycd.nyc.gov. But I just, right. So if you all have any questions or thoughts past this, I'm really happy to engage in conversation with any of you folks. So thank you. So that any other thoughts or questions before I close out?
Derek, we sent it to the members twice within the last week, so I can send it out again tomorrow.
Excellent. Yeah, great.
So people can think about it and then contact you with your contact information.
Thank you so much, Anita.
Any other comments to make?
Great. Thank you so much. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have a number of projects that are in the works currently, and I'll be happy to give you all some updates later on this year.
Great.
Great. Thanks for having me, everyone.
Thank you, Derek.
Derek.
Thank you, Anita.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And may I close by saying I'm inspired by the Chair's comment suggesting we put ourselves forward as continuing to be anti-racist. I think the statement, and I saw this in the chat, that it will be a living document. So I think it's something for us to continue to commit ourselves to and work towards. But I'm encouraged by that suggestion that we're maybe even further along the path than the senior staff thinks that we are. So we still know that there's a big road ahead. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Derek. We appreciate the work, Derek, you're putting into this. So thank you. And Mike, as always, thank you for the outstanding work you do for this agency. It's a pleasure to be part of the work that you guys do. We're just a small part, us members of the CAB board, to the greater good that DYCD does. So it's not just being anti-racist, it's the enormous help that you help facilitate for the needy and the less fortunate of the cities. So thank you very much, Mike. And if the commissioner is still on, thank you once again, Commissioner, for the great work you've done. Any questions on the equity statement before we entertain a motion to vote? Any questions? I will now entertain a motion to vote to accept the DYCD equity statement. Motion to accept?
Motion to accept by Linda.
Linda, thank you. Seconded by?
Sasumati Patel.
Ms. Patel, thank you for the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. Moving on. Old business, quorum reminder. Thank God this time we didn't have to remind, and due to the great work of Anita and obviously Susie, we had quorum, and you all see how important it is for us to have quorum in order to conduct the business that we need to do. So thank you very much. Anita, any new business?
Yes, we have new business. Does everybody remember Candace Julien, who used to be the representative for the Brooklyn Borough President's office?
Yes.
Yes, well, now Candace is with us in the NABCAB liaison unit. And thanks to Candace, we got most of our elected officials to send representatives here today. So clap hands for Candace and welcome her
Thank
to
you,
our
Candace.
staff.
Woo-hoo!
Thank you, Candace.
Thank you, Candace.
Thanks, everyone, and for all the elected official reps who attended. Thank you.
There you go.
And this is a pleasure to have you back on board.
Absolutely, thank you.
Anita, any further new business?
No, that's it for now.
Okay, the next meeting is scheduled for when, Anita?
April 7th.
April 7th. If everyone can be so kind and note the calendar for April 7th, we look forward to that meeting. I want to thank everyone.
The committee meetings will be in March. I will send a
Right,
reminder.
but the full CAB
The
meeting,
meeting is April 7th.
April 7th.
Mhm.
Thank you. I thank everyone for taking time of their busy schedules to attend this meeting. It's much appreciated, the work you do, both in and out of the CAB work that you do. Most of you are incredible volunteers, and we thank you for what you do. I would now entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. It is now 7:21 p.m. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Jackie.
Jackie, seconded by
Seconded Joseph Pierre. Seconded Joseph Pierre.
Joseph Pierre. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Anyone abstaining? So moved. Thank you all. Have a great evening and God bless.
God bless.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Everybody,
Stay
good
safe,
night. Good
everyone.
night.
Bye.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Good night.
Everybody, buenas noches.
No.
Buenas
Good
noches.
night,